Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. And boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. But let's not pretend this huge, undisputed fight that we have coming up at 168-pound division for the third time between Canelo Alvarez and Triple G, right? Bring this down a little bit. Let's not pretend that steroid use isn't going to be a concern. The talks have already started. We know that Triple G is up in age. He hasn't looked, I would say, phenomenal or like that monster that we saw probably over the last, 5 to 10 years. But he still looks like he may have enough in the tank after he gets out of those early rounds, if he can withstand a body attack by Canelo, to present a lot of problems. Canelo, I have to be real about this. He looked super ordinary and super vulnerable in his fight against Bivol. But he was fighting against Bivol. Triple G is not Bivol. So with Canelo and Triple G in this third fight, it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to say. I think people are split on who they think is going to get this win. Before I was saying Triple G, Canelo murders Triple G. But I don't say that now. But at the same time, I realize that Triple G is not Bivol. It's a totally different stylistic matchup. And Bivol's not going to stand there and let you hit him. Triple G will stand there and take shots. He was doing that in the fight against the Japanese fighter. I think it was Murata. He was standing there taking shots. And I think if Murata could really put his foot on the gas, he may have stopped Triple G. Okay? Although Triple G's never been stopped. I just think he could have really got him out of there. So that being said, man, when it comes to steroid use, we know what happened with Canelo, but this whole thing about steroids in the sport of boxing, it's still one of those topics that are taboo, man. And some people don't want to talk about it, even to this day. It's like trying to talk about something like that at the Thanksgiving table. It's like, hey, not today. Let's not talk about it here. There's going to be a better place and time and another opportunity to discuss it. But the truth remains that, these performance enhancement drugs that are out there are a serious problem in the sport of boxing. And in order to tackle it, there just needs to be more honest discussion. And I think that is happening in boxing. But people have to be held accountable. They really do. Now, this is the thing. When Alvarez tested positive, he had certain traces or amounts of a substance called clenbuterol, which is not, per se a steroid. It's used by asthma sufferers as a decongestant, and it is banned by the World Doping Agency. Now, the thing is this. As soon as Canelo tested positive for that, right? As soon as he tested positive for that, Golden Boy came out and said that Canelo acquired it from eating Mexican beef that was tainted. Now, that's where the whole joke about the Mexican beef, eating the beef, and everybody took that and ran with it because it just seemed like a cop-out. It seemed like BS, right? Nobody believed that Canelo was eating some tainted beef and ended up having traces of this substance in his body, okay? They feel like he just got flagged for always being a guy who was doping and cheating to gain an advantage in fights. Now, I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just telling you that a lot of people felt that, and to this day, some people feel that he was just cheating and got caught. But the thing about that is, this has been going on for quite some time with boxers and being found with traces of these banned substances. Now, when it comes to Canelo in particular, I think some people, especially the haters, right, the Canelo haters, they really try to sweep underneath the rug the fact that his hair follicle test revealed 0 pads. The initial urine test found an insignificant 0.06 milliliters, and I don't even know if you know how insignificant that is. I'm not even sure how insignificant that is. But basically, that amount wouldn't even help an ant gain an advantage, okay? So when we're talking about Canelo Alvarez and this guy in pads and possibly cheating going into this next fight, I think it's unfair to label him as someone who would entertain getting his hands on a performance enhancement drug going into this third Triple G fight. I just don't think that's fair. But the bottom line is this, man. That issue about Canelo cheating, that's never going to go away. It's a shadow will forever hang over his record and his accomplishments. Now, he's done some great things since then. He was doing great things before that. But there's some people who just don't want to let it go. But that shadow does loom over Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin 3. It does. But these positive tests of pads are no longer a rare occurrence in boxing. You know, when you look at Luis Ortiz, you know, a lot of our favorite grandpa in boxing. This man's 70 years old, still getting busy. But he tested positive for chlorothiazide and hydrochlorothiazide. And both of those were used to treat high blood pressure. And the significance about that is that can be used to mask, right? It can be used to mask or cover other performance-enhancing drugs. That's why it was such a big deal. But if you remember, Luis Ortiz was saying he takes blood pressure medication, and that's what it is. He even proved that he'd been taking it for years. And just one of those things, okay? So as a result, that scrapped the original Wilder-Ortiz fight, if you guys remember that. But, you know, they ended up getting it on in 2 fights. Ortiz still looked great. And but, you know, we all know what happened in those 2 fights. If you go back, I think even further than that, you guys remember Lamont Peterson. He tested positive for synthetic testosterone leading up to his fight with Amir Khan. And they ended up, you know, canceling that fight. You know, and this is my thing, right? I used to do a lot of working out. A lot of working out, man, since I was like a teenager. A lot of lifting weights. And I got into boxing, did a lot of boxing. But I have always been in the gym lifting weights. I've taken all of the creatine, arginine, tribulus, vitamin C. I've taken cod liver oil tablets, multivitamins, you know, the protein powders. I've taken, what's that other thing, man, I used to have back then, man? NO2 Explode. I took all those different supplements, man. And I don't think I would have ever tested positive. And I always had urinalysis done, just the line of work that I was in. Always stuff tested. Random tests, all the time. And that shit ain't really fun, you know what I mean? But you go, you piss in the cup, it is what it is. But I never, ever, even with all those supplements that I was taking at the time, man, never tested positive for nothing. So when these guys are testing positive for anabolic steroids and stuff like that, you know, it makes me wonder how, you know, how does that get into your system? Now, I'm not saying these guys are guilty intentionally doing things, but at the same time, it's in their system. So we know what happened with Lamont Peterson. Like that was a big foul on his part. But then Andre Berto, you guys remember Andre Berto? Tested positive for the anabolic steroid nandrolone. And then after that, Yuriorkis Gamboa tested positive for it. But, you know, this whole use of performance enhancement drugs has been going on for decades, man, across all sports. You guys remember the late heavyweight Tommy Morrison, the Duke, I think it was John Wayne's grandson, right? He confessed to steroid use and claimed to know for a fact that many other people were guilty of the crime. He didn't disclose their names. He took that to the grave with him. But he said, there are a lot of people who are cheating in boxing, and we know that it happens. It's still happening, even with all the VADA testing. Not everybody's enrolled in VADA testing. You know, you don't have to be. They can't make every boxer enroll in VADA testing. It's voluntary. And plus, it's so expensive. So there's a lot of guys cheating, And we all familiar with those names I just mentioned. But you remember Shane Mosley? Now, he tested positive for steroids provided by Balco. You guys all remember that, don't you? The Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative. Man, let me tell you, Shane Mosley, man. He can say whatever he wants, but he admitted that he unknowingly, I don't know if you saw that testimony. Shane Mosley looked guilty during that trial. I was sitting there feeling embarrassed for him. I'm like, man, I felt after watching that, like, Shane Mosley know he cheated. That's foul. As you could just tell, he just looked guilty. But he admitted to unknowingly taking EPO or erythropoietin before his second bout with Oscar De La Hoya. And we know in that second fight with Oscar De La Hoya, to me, De La Hoya won that fight, but they gave Mosley the win. But Shane Mosley looked really in good shape in that first De La Hoya fight. And when you see guys just getting stronger and stronger round by round, picking up steam, I'm not saying just through a good strength and conditioning and nutritional program, you can't accomplish that. But when you see something that just seems unreal, it probably is. Okay. But now these two names I'm going to throw at you, you may not have known. See, because I didn't know this. But then again, that's me. Toney and Roy Jones tested positive for banned substances. Did you know that? After Jones retained his light heavyweight championship in Indianapolis in 2000, he tested positive for androstenedione. Jones stated his test result came after ingesting a supplement called Rip Fuel, and Jones' opponent, Richard Hall, also came up positive for the same banned substance. Toney's 2005 victory over John Ruiz was switched to a no contest after Toney tested positive for nandrolone. Toney's team stated the steroids were provided by a doctor to help treat an arm injury prior to the bout. Now, isn't that crazy? Now, I'm not saying that what happened is excusable. I'm not saying it's inexcusable. I'm just letting you know what happened. Now, some consider the fact that for every boxer who is caught or confessed to using pads, there's likely a whole bunch who never do it. But let's just be clear on this now. It's no more than a 50-50 proposition that a fan's favorite boxer isn't using something to get that much desired extra edge. Okay? The truth is, man, steroids have been around in boxing for decades. It's not going away, man. It is. It's even guys like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, have been rumored to have been using some kind of enhancement or something that's illegal. Okay? Nothing's ever been proven, but there's been a lot of rumors about it. But it is what it is, man. Bernard Hopkins has been rumored to use steroids. Juan Manuel Marquez. I don't care what anyone says. Marquez was on the goddamn juice when he fought Pacquiao in that, Pacquiao 4, the fourth fight, where he knocked him out. I don't care what anyone says. Juan Manuel Marquez was on the juice. You can say what you want. That man was on the juice. Evander Holyfield is another one rumored to be on some kind of, performance enhancement drugs. And I told you about Mayweather and Pacquiao. I think we all knew about Pacquiao. Mayweather, I knew about the stuff, putting stuff in his hands. But anything else, I didn't know about that. But Juan Manuel Marquez, say what you want. That man was on the juice. It wasn't no Canelo beef. He was on something else. That man was on the damn juice. But anyway, man, when it comes to fighters cheating, they seriously damage the sport, and it is what it is, man. It's just really, really unfortunate, man, when you see this happening. So Canelo is just one of those boxers who, even aside from the whole steroid usage controversy, man, he's beyond mega stardom in the sport of boxing, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to affect his supremacy. I don't think it's going to affect his legacy. But a lot of people still wonder if it was just simply like a dietary mishap, or something associated with just the whole contaminated meat that seems to plague Mexican athletes, because Gennady Golovkin, that's something that has Canelo so pissed off about this third fight. Golovkin said then he felt Canelo was a cheat. Golovkin has said he felt Canelo Alvarez is delusional, unprofessional, and Golovkin has said he's going to destroy Canelo Alvarez. So as a result, the whole fight has become personal. Okay? Now, the steroid usage was going into the third fight wasn't brought up by Triple G, but it's being brought up by, a lot of people out there on social media. And I think it's fair play, man. I think it's fair play to throw it out there. I don't think Canelo is. I don't really have a thought on whether he is or isn't using it. I think Canelo is just a guy who works hard. But when you have a situation like his, where it was supposedly some beef, it is what it is. And they come back and prove that there's nothing in his hair follicle. It makes you wonder. Well, whatever is going on out there in Mexico, especially dealing with meat, stay away from it, which he's done. But one name here, right, that of someone who has just been totally ridiculous with the steroid usage is Jarrell Miller. Everything he did was to give himself an advantage in fights. And that's not something I'm making up. He comes out here and he gives his side of the story, and I listen to him. And I do believe that there's probably more to what happened with them, but the bottom line is, when you're testing positive for 3-4 different substances, when they smoke this fire, it makes it hard to want to believe what he's saying. First, the fight with AJ didn't come off because of that. Get a little suspension, fine, come back, test positive again. That's like the extreme case of steroid use. Now, I'm going to equate what happened with Jarrell Miller to Resto and Billy Collins, where Resto had the loaded gloves and ruined that guy's night, ruined that guy's career, ultimately resulted in the man killing himself. What Jarrell Miller did, to me, is the exact same as far as the steroid usage, is the exact same of Louis Resto with those loaded gloves. Exact same. Okay? It's just Miller didn't get an opportunity to go in there and damage AJ. That Miller at that time had an engine out of this world. He's a heavy hitter. He doesn't seem like the heaviest puncher, but man, 300 pounds. He can hit you, it's going to hurt. Could you imagine if he would have gotten there and he has a serious chin, concrete chin. Could you imagine if he would have gotten there with AJ? Although his gloves, as I said, his gloves wouldn't have been loaded. But to just have all that stuff in his system. And AJ gets tired. And he's not going to quit. And as AJ's getting tired, Miller just keeps touching him, beating him, banging him. And let's say the fight gets to the 12th round and Joshua went through the fight taking a lot of damage. The long-term effects that could have had on AJ. Okay? So when I say I equate the whole thing with Jarrell Miller's situation and Louis Resto, that's why I'm drawing that parallel. Because I think the outcome eventually could have been the same, where someone gets really, really hurt in that fight. But we're glad it didn't happen. But it is what it is. So this whole steroid things, man, it's just really unfortunate, man. It really is, man. It really, really is, man. And as long as the steroid usage is going to continue, it's just going to continue to kind of hollow out our sport of boxing. And it's just going to, I'm not going to say people are going to kind of, drift away from the sport. I don't think that'll ever happen. But it's always going to make you wonder if the best people are actually winning fights. And that's why I think it's so important to have the random drug testing. But they got to figure out the price point, man, because, if you're going to charge somebody, I don't know, what is it, like 20, 30, 40,000? Not all the boxers have that kind of money. And I could be off with my numbers, so don't rake me against the coals, but I know the testing is extremely expensive. But as a result, fighters need to be more responsible too. You got to take ownership. It's on you. You can blame your nutritionist, you can blame your manager, you can blame your coach. At the end of the day, you're the one that has a ticket. So you need to be responsible for what you're taking. Get spun up on it. Become a damn pharmacist. That's what you have to do. You know, you can't sit there and blame the whole world for what's happening to you. And I'm gonna go ahead and leave it as that. But this whole steroid use thing, and at this point right now, I don't even think we need to worry about Canelo, because I don't think we need to worry about either one of them. But if a boxer was going to an extremely tough fight and they're 40 plus, I would think that boxer should be the one looking to get an edge. And Triple G doesn't seem, you know, neither one of these guys seem like guys who want to go and cheat. But if any boxer, if it was any boxer in a fight who was in his 40s going up against somebody who was like 8 or 9 years junior to them, I would think the older fighter would be the one looking to get that advantage, because you can't defeat Father Time. So maybe they need to kind of redirect their focus from Canelo and kind of focus on Triple G as far as what he could do to make sure he's in the best shape possible to be able to handle Canelo Alvarez. Because Canelo Alvarez, when he fought Bivol, first 6 rounds he looked strong, but he did start to get tired. But Canelo Alvarez alluded to something that happened, and the guys internal to his camp know what went wrong. So Canelo feels it'll be a different fight against Bivol. But going against Triple G looked very tired and very lethargic with his fight against the guy over there in Japan. But he did come back. The other guy started getting tired too, and Triple G just started pushing. But with a fight between the two of these guys, man, I just think if they're going to come and go at it with each other, it's just who has the best engine. And they need to figure out what they can do that doesn't violate VADA, okay, to make sure they're in the best shape possible. Because both of them are going to need all the help they can get. These guys aren't long-distance runners, you know what I mean? Like, they're front runners. They get in the fight 4, 6 rounds. That's about... That's where they're comfortable. You know what I mean? That's the sweet spot. Once you start getting beyond that 6th round, these guys can get to the finish line, but they're not keeping up that pace. And so I think with both of them, they're going to have to figure out a way to keep up that pace, that work rate, especially Triple G. So hopefully he doesn't get his hand on the Canelo beef. What a travesty that would be, wouldn't it? That would be horrible. But I don't know, man. I'll leave it as that. I just think it's really frustrating that you get a few fighters who end up getting lucky and becoming megastars as a result of them not having to take the random drug testing and go into fights fully loaded with this crap, and they go on to become megastars in boxing. And then the other guys who are really doing it cleanly, right? Really just putting in the work and doing it cleanly, they almost end up in total obscurity because they've taken a loss, or they've taken a couple losses. And those losses and those fights they win in where they lost, the playing field wasn't level, it wasn't even. And as a result, they continue with their boxing careers, ending up in almost total obscurity. So that's the part about it that's frustrating. But looking forward to the fight with Triple G and Canelo, 3rd fight. But I just want to give you a little history on steroid usage. The talk is coming up again about Canelo, Triple G. But I think we should be looking. I don't think either one of them will use it. But if anyone would use it at this point in time, something to give them an advantage. It may not be a steroid, but something to give them an advantage. The black buckle like Panama Lewis when he was with Aaron Pryor. I don't want that bottle. Give me the black bottle. The black buckle. So we're going to see who's going to want something similar to what was in the black buckle to open up their lungs and give them a second win. And if anyone wants to do it, I think they're both honest guys. I'm just saying, as far as age-wise, hey, look at Triple G. But anyway, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. You guys keep safe. As always, I appreciate the support. I'm in the breeze.